Welcome back, seedlings!
Saplings and treelings.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Summer.
Hello.
We're in Lamentations.
Still, yep.
We have dressed the part. Lamenting.
I did not.
No, you didn't. I did.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yup.
All right. Lamentations 3.
What?
Are you going to read for me?
Oh, sure. Where
No,
at?
rather than me try to dig myself out of that whole hole, I'm just going to go over it. Build a bridge. Let's go.
Okay, yeah. Where am I at? 46?
Yippers.
Alright, 346.
Uh-huh.
Where am I going? Till you say?
Yeah.
All our enemies have opened their mouths against us. Fear and a snare is come upon us. Desolation and destruction. My eye runneth down with rivers of water for the destruction of the daughter of my people.
All right, so we've been talking about this lament, and we were talking about, does God ever curse? Does God ever hold things against us, right? And when we're in that mode, when we walk out from under God's protection, right? So one of the basics of Christianity is God tells us to stay under his protection, right? Mm-hmm. I will protect you. I will go with you. He tells the Israelites, I'll go with you wherever you step. Just make sure, right, that you stay under my protection. You were talking about at prayer today how God says to the people in the Old Testament, hey, if you even get off a little tiny bit, right, you're going to walk out from under my protection, right? Yeah. So again, tell our listeners, when we talk about the basics, tell them again, not only how important it is to stay under protection, I just said that, but what happens when we don't, and how do we stay under God's protection?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's, what I was talking about is like Deuteronomy, right? It's like 26, 27, 28, 29. Mm-hmm. All the end of Deuteronomy, where he's saying, again, right? It's the law, the law, the law. Follow my commands, follow my commands, follow my commands. And if you do, here's how I will bless you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, here's how I will curse you.
Yeah.
Not here's like what might happen, but he uses the word curse, right? Here's how I'm going to curse you. And I mean, it is extensively detailed. Mm-hmm. The cursing list is way longer than the blessing list.
It's true.
Which is funny how that works, isn't it? But it is important that every single detail, like there's lots of details God cares about. And it's because details matter in the result of things. Like it just does. Like that's why I keep saying lately a little bit 11, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And the rest is 11's the whole lump. Yep. Right? A little bit 11's the whole lump. That's why he says go into these places and kill all the living beings, kill all the women and children. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible, because they're evil. Mm-hmm. Because women corrupt men, because they get them to build Asherah poles and all these things. And, guess what? Now we're all just worshiping a bunch of stuff. So, like, the reality is we have to listen to God. We have to know his commands. We have to follow his commands. We have to know his laws. We have to follow his laws. No, we're not under the law, but that's not. It doesn't mean just delete it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it doesn't matter what you do. And God has his own law for each one of us. That's specific to what we're supposed to do every day and how we're supposed to live and what our calling is. So really, you have to get up every day. You have to talk to God all day long. You have to ask him where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. And when you're obedient, you'll be blessed. And when you're disobedient, you'll be cursed.
So part of that cursing, right? Part of what happens is in verse 46 that you just read, right? Again, this probably isn't being over dramatic. All our enemies open their mouths against us. It's funny that when we're under God's protection, we sometimes don't even notice what people are saying about us, right? We're so walking with God, our ears are closed. We're just focused in on God, and we don't even hear all the stuff that's going around us. But when we start walking out from under God's protection, we become like the Israelites. The Israelites were fine when they knew God was with them, but when they sent spies out, they started paying attention and hearing what all the other people were about. One of our favorite stories is the Elijah story. We use it all the time, right? Elijah's great. He's under God's protection. He calls fire down from heaven. And 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, he hears the voice of a queen, right? And she threatens him, right? Thinks, hey, you're going to be dead by the end of today, right? And he runs away. right? Which is exactly what happens here. Sometimes when we're not under God's protection, when we walk out from underneath it, all of a sudden we start hearing things that we've never heard before, right? We hear the voice of the enemy speaking to us.
I think about the movie The Passion.
Yep.
When Judas gives Jesus over, and then you see him out in the streets tormented by these little demon children.
Yep.
Right, that are just all of a sudden picking at him and just right in it, and I'm yeah, it's like you went past a point and it was unleashed.
Yep.
You're getting all this extra that God was protecting you from before, that you didn't see and you didn't hear and you didn't have, but now it's okay, it's what you wanted, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think of that a lot of times in business. If you're a CEO or a boss of a business and things are going well, it's not that people aren't saying things about you and how you're leading, right? Because you don't hear them because things are going great. But the minute things start going poorly, all of a sudden you start hearing things, right? It was funny. I was watching the end of a football game the other day, and they showed the coach who had just won, right? Their team is doing really well. They're not supposed to be, but they're doing well now. And he left the field, and the general manager and the owner were standing there, and they gave him a big hug and everything. And I'm thinking, that guy is one bad loss away from that turning, from hugs and way to go to you're fired.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of a sudden those other voices are going to come in, and the fans are going to come in, and all these things happen. And when we're under protection, when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, God protects us from those voices, right? That's true. The next verse there says, because of that, because we start hearing the voices, panic and pitfalls have come upon us, devastation and destruction. Isn't it funny that we start listening to that voice that's in our head? And you said it, what happened to Judas? He hung himself, right? Because of those things that were in his head. He knew what he did, right? And he couldn't get away from it. How often then when we walk out from under God's protection do we start listening to voices that we shouldn't be listening to? And how often does that lead us to destruction?
I mean, always. I think, for me, it's already past that when I realize, oh, wait. For me, it's it's usually thoughts, right? So you think something, the enemy puts a thought in your head, and then you run with it, and you do or say stupid stuff, and then for me, it's somebody says, did you pray about that? Right? Because that's my thing, obviously, right? And I'm nope.
Yeah.
And I'm instantly yeah, well, to me, that throws the whole thing out the window, because I'm yeah, it's probably not right at all. It's probably not right at all. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. And if it was, I probably just ruined it anyway. So it literally to me throws the whole situation, all my feelings, all the things out in a way that's now I just need to delete this.
Yeah, so we
somehow get out of this.
We tend to think that every good opportunity that's presented to us is from God, right?
No.
And every bad opportunity is the enemy, and that's how we ought to be able to figure it out. The enemy offers us great opportunities to get away from God's will. I wonder how many people have taken a better job that moved them away from what God had for them.
Oh, totally. More money, all the things.
All right. How many people have left churches because God gave an opportunity to go to another church, or they needed us more, or whatever it was, and God's like, that's not my opportunity. I didn't do that, right? I think about that. You and I talk frequently about when God clears our schedule, clears stuff out, and it's a God thing, right? Oh wow, He did that. And sometimes the enemy could clear our schedule just as much for the stuff that he wants. And that's why I love what you're saying. We prayerfully consider things.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Everything.
Let's wrap this up and then wrap all of this up next time. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. That's very optimistic of you. Normally you'd be like, Andy, come on.
I think we could do it.
All right, let's do it.
I think we could do it.
All right.
Am I going to do it? You're going to make me do it? I know, I'm super shocked, right? Because I never have to wrap it up.
You never have to.
I don't know, guys, just pray about everything. It's pretty simple. Just pray about everything. I've said 1,000 times in every video. all this stuff. We could talk about all these different verses and all these different chapters and books and all the things, but it boils down to a couple pretty simple, basic seed things. Pray about everything you do, everything you say, everywhere you are, and if you're obedient, you'll be blessed, and if you're not, you'll be cursed. That's pretty much it.
Amen.
So, we love you guys. We'll see you next week. Same outfit, sorry.